Well, hi, and welcome to another Wednesday evening chat with Louise. Now, today I thought I would talk about how you get over a breakup. And do you know, when I started thinking about it, it's 2.5 years since it happened to me, and I thought it was going to be easy to talk about. And I must admit, just sitting and thinking about it for a bit, caught myself welling up a little bit. So I do think there's a lot to be said. Last week we spoke about living on our own and some of the three tips to feeling back in control. But then I thought I want to take it back. What prompted me to start talking about that? And I thought, well, the first time that I lived on my own was when I had my son. I was left with a 6-month-old baby and a full-time business to run. And that was a really, really tough time. And then going through my life, I got married again, sadly got divorced again. I've lived on my own for over 8 years, but for a portion of that, I did have a long distance relationship. So I never felt lonely because I always had that contact by phone or when we met up. And then 2.5 years ago, the week before Christmas, I was very unceremoniously dumped. And I don't know what makes it worse about being Christmas, but it really does. And my birthday is the week after Christmas as well. So that was like a double whammy. And I think the first thing I had to really realise was that I'd put my life on hold for this person. My friendships had dwindled. I had stopped going places, doing things. We're on the back of the COVID thing as well anyway. So life had become quite complicated and quite isolating. So there I was, suddenly going from 3 or 4 phone calls a day to nothing. I was living in my caravan because I was in the middle of this build that's going on forever and ever. And so thankfully I had a cat. My adorable cat Billy. Oh gosh, if it wasn't for him. And again, sadly he's no longer with me either. But they do say animals come into your life for a reason, and oh my gosh, did he. The thing is, this time, it had been a very up and down relationship. It wasn't right. And I think you know that deep down. But when you believe that they're the only one for you, they're your twin flame, and that's another story we'll have another time. But yes, you allow a lot, you forgive a lot. And I knew this time that going back wasn't, if I'd have probably waited a bit, if I'd have probably gone and begged, if I probably, all the rest of it probably could have gone back to being exactly as it was before. I don't know. But I knew it wasn't the right thing to do. So I had to really start and look at my life and work with how I was going to get over it. And the way I describe it is, that when you've managed to finally get to sleep and then you wake up in the morning and literally for those first 2 or 3 seconds, life's good because you've forgotten. And then the minute you remember that sickness that comes in your tummy, that fear, dread, all those things that hurt, they come back. And I would have described it as having like losing a limb. I felt that hurt and that lost. So for any of you that are going through that or have been through that and can resonate, sorry, there's a silly fly keeps flying around, then yes, I totally understand. So what did I do to cope with that? Well, Christmas Day was the worst. Trying to get through that, I did it hour by hour with a bottle of Prosecco. Don't advocate using alcohol to get through the pain, but I tell you what, you do whatever works for you, because those first few weeks you are treading water. And I would give myself an hour. I couldn't watch anything Christmassy. My son was away, so there was no issues there. I didn't want to spend time with my family. If I'm really honest with myself now, I think deep down there was a part of me that felt like a failure again. I've had a number of long-term relationships that haven't lasted, and you start to question, what did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? And I didn't want to have that discussion with anybody. So yeah, Christmas Day, I just got through hour by hour. I'd get through an hour and I'd look and I'd go, I've done it. I even watched the box set of Downton Abbey because I didn't want to watch Christmas things. I didn't want to see people being happy because I was so unhappy. And going through that week, I lost touch with a lot of my friends. But one lady that I'm still in touch with, she's lovely. We can drop in out of each other's lives on a yearly basis and we still can pick up. So when it came to my birthday, I somehow managed to reach out because I'm not very good at asking. But I did sort of say to her, I was at a loose end, and she, bless her, we went to the beach. We went for a walk on the beach and a coffee and some cake. And I will be eternally grateful to her for that day. Because again, it got me through a day realising that I was still alive, I was breathing. I've got so many things to be grateful for. Yet when you wallow in that hurt, you can't see that. So that got me through my birthday. And then I had to start really sitting and thinking what I was going to do in my life, because I needed to do something. I couldn't sit in this caravan day after day after day. So there was a yoga class that was advertised. I am the most inflexible person on the planet. Not really a fan of exercise unless it's kind of horse riding. I like walking, but yeah. Anyway, this friend encouraged me and said, whatever you do, make sure you go to that class. So I rocked up to the class, and I was really pleased because it was actually one of those that was very, very low impact. It was all about very small movements and about breathing. And yes, so I quite enjoyed that. And they did yoga nidra at the end, which is where you can relax and just wrap yourself up in a blanket and have this it's like a half meditation, if you like, but you don't have to do anything. You just lay there with your eyes closed. And I didn't have to interact with people. And that worked really well for me. So I committed to that and I went weekly. So that was my start of doing something. I then got to know the lady that was running the yoga, and then she said to me, we were chatting about something one day, and she introduced me to another friend who has become a really, really good friend now. We've got a lot in common. We look at the world the same way, and we just went around there for coffee and had a chat, and that was great. And then both of them said to me, there's this Wednesday personal development course. Do you fancy doing it? And I kind of got in my stage where I was just going to say yes to anything. If I was offered, do you want to come here? Do you want to do that? I was going to push myself out of my comfort zone and I was going to go. So I went to this, and it turned out to be a spiritual development course. And that was fascinating because I stayed on that course for a good year and a half. I have learned so much. I have learned so much about myself. And again, within that, it made me look at the dark side of me. It helped me to heal. And looking back now, I can honestly say I can see fault in both sides with a relationship. If you'd have asked me 6 months, a year ago, I would have said, no, he was a bad person, he did this, that and the other. I gave everything I had, I did this, that and the other. But I can honestly see now, it's expectations. My expectations were very different to what he was able to give. That's not his fault. That was my fault. They were my expectations. So I've owned that now. So I think firstly, what I would say is take time to grieve in whichever way you need to. Cry, howl at the moon. Did a few of them. Went to the beach, screamed a little bit. I walked a lot, and I'm very lucky I'm near the sea because that was something I made myself do. I got out and I walked. We've got footpaths near me, so I made myself go and walk. I hated it some days, and I literally stomped around in a mardy mood. And but I knew that if I didn't do something, I was never going to change the situation I was in. I'd been unhappy before the relationship split up for a year and a half, but I still would have rather have stayed in it and been unhappy than go through that pain. Once somebody I was speaking to now, and I remember them saying, when you love somebody and you really love them, and I'm one of those people, I'm all in or I'm not, is that you give somebody a piece of your heart and you don't ask for it back. You've just got to learn to heal over that. It's just got to heal. And that really is a lovely way of looking at it, because I don't regret loving, I don't regret giving, and I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about me, my faults, my expectations, as well as what other people are capable of giving. And I think this is what's really helped me to learn and love to live by myself. I think there are times when I was angry. I was really angry at my situation, very much a why me. So I think part of that grieving process is going through the pity side of it. But again, what do you want from your life? Sometimes we can hide in a relationship because that relationship gives us excuses why we don't do things, why we don't go to places. I love to dance. I love Northern Soul. So I got off my backside and I started going again. Now it takes a lot of effort. I understand that when you're on your own. I used to really have to build myself up to be brave enough to go to an event. I didn't always necessarily want the social interaction, but I wanted to be out. And Northern Soul's great because you can go, you can dance, you don't have to talk to anybody. But there are some lovely people out there, and I have had some lovely conversations with people. But music was so uplifting. Even exercise. So for me, walking, the yoga, the dancing, but sometimes just putting music on at home. And then you think, I know some of you are already going, yes, but that reminds me of him or her, wherever your relationship is. And I understand that, because I can still hear tracks now that absolutely floor me. Something will come on and it'll just bring back such a lovely, lovely memory of how happy, or were we? Happy in my thoughts that that's how it should be. But yes, and now I try to look at those and listen to them and go, yeah, that was good. I was happy then, that was a good time. So going back, I've digressed again, I know, but grieve, allow yourself to heal. There is no time limit on this at all, because I'm talking about a breakup, but equally when people have lost a loved one that, you know, they've passed over. Again, people get frustrated, they move on, and they expect people to heal quickly. There is no time limit on it. You grieve for as long as you want, but try and look after yourself, because I say I did go down the wine route for a little while. Didn't make me feel any better. I could do a bottle of wine a night. Yeah, it was cold in the caravan. Yes, it was lonely. Yes, it was miserable. Yes, it was a bit scary. Great excuse to drink red wine, which I love. And it got to the point, but then you didn't want to get up in the morning because you felt like rubbish. It makes your joints ache. It's a real knock-on effect. So I gave myself a couple of months of that, and then I just knocked it on the head. Don't drink at home on my own. Drink when I go out. So it makes you, if you want to drink, you've got to go out, you've got to find friends. So going back to this development course I went on, I have made lifelong friends on that. We go away for trips now. We go away on our little holidays, and it is so much fun. And I've got a network now of some really close, trusted, just a few, but people I know that I could ring in an emergency, I could chat, and I can bore them to death chatting over the same subject, especially my building, which they hear about regularly, but they know they can do that to me as well, and that we will help each other. So first of all, grieve, care for yourself, look after your body, and be kind. You're human. You're a human being having a human experience. I understand that. But you are a spiritual person as well. So try and get in touch with, if you can sit with yourself and really, really get to know you. I think that's as good an advice as I can give. Is in day-to-day life we forget who we are and what's important to us. So start looking at, what have you not done in your life that you want to do? What were your dreams and goals? Maybe that somebody else crushed, or that you put on hold for somebody else, or just didn't feel brave enough to do. Look at those and then make a plan. And even if it's just a little bit of smiling at somebody in the street that day, if that's your first thing you decide to do, well done. You're making contact with people again. Then after that, say hello, smile. Nobody's going to smile back at you. People have got their own stuff going on in their life, But if you can find a group, something to go to, something to commit to, I can't say that, and then again, that gives you a routine. I say my cat, bless him, I lost him, but what a comfort he was. And that was a big thing. So maybe you don't have an animal or a pet, or you can't have one, but could you walk a dog for somebody? You know, there are places where you can go online and you can, you know, like people are at work who need the dogs walking. Maybe that could be a way of getting you out. And sometimes it makes you feel like you've got a reason to walk if you've got an animal with you, and you feel a little bit safer as well. So I hope there's some little things there to go forward with. I am going to talk more about coping with the loneliness next week, because I think this is a big thing for people. I think of women, especially of all ages, men as well, totally, but I can only speak from my personal experience as well. And I do think that loneliness can be the most crippling of things, but equally it's another part of our journey, another part of looking at who we are, what do we want from our life, and how to make this life really good, how to make it exciting, and how to get back to feeling whole and feeling like, oh, there's another day. What am I going to do today? So until next week, I hope you've enjoyed this evening. I hope, you know, this is helpful. If there's anything you want me to talk about, do put it in the comments. And if you like this, please like and share and subscribe and share it with your friends, because it helps me as well. Thank you so much.